Thank you, Andy. I appreciate the introduction and also your invitation to attend today's event as a speaker. I'm glad to facilitate along with David. My ventures into South Africa started about a year and a half ago on a visit to South Africa when I was CEO of PACE, which is the largest contact center trade association in the U.S. And I want to talk about some of that experience over the last 18 months. A little bit difficult because once I had that trip, I haven't been able to get back because of COVID. But to talk about what I've been talking to about buyers and how the marketing efforts of South Africa actually have really increased just in the last year and a half. Let me start by saying there's probably no better time for South Africa's BPOs to take advantage of the U.S. market. And at the same time, there's also probably no better time for international BPOs that are not in South Africa to be in South Africa. It's easy to say that, but what are the opportunities that actually would fit this South Africa landscape, and how does South Africa's BPOs compete with other geographies in gaining a share of the U.S. market? The U.S. market is huge, and this is not a one-take-all. There is enough of a piece for many companies to take advantage of based upon their competence, experience, and various value differentials. COVID-19 has radically changed the contact center sector throughout the globe. The home agent model, which was always a disaster recovery part, has now become part of the actual fabric of the contact center industry. And so that has created some outsourcing opportunities. The U.S. market in terms of labor is it's in a lot of trouble because of certain factors. Some of these are not new. Obviously, COVID has affected this in the fact that many U.S. workers were giving a significant amount of money that actually had them not work as companies closed down operations during the height of the pandemic. So it also gave people a lot of time to think about what they're going to do in the future. And different from other geographies, a contact center agent is not a desired position in the U.S. It's a transitory position. It's low paying, and usually comes with very, very high attrition. Now it's even worse because the minimum wage is being increased state by state in the U.S. and the federal efforts to increase it to $15 an hour. It makes the hiring almost, or actually using U.S. agents, it makes a financial burden on a project, and the need to outsource is just that much greater. The United States is also experiencing lack of skills, and they're in skills in IT and other shared service positions that the GBS sector needs right now, and they just cannot find them in the U.S. So there's an opportunity for nearshore and offshore companies to supply that talent, and that demand has grown significantly, and I don't see it reducing at all. The United States does present some I shouldn't say obstacles, but some unique situations because of our compliance and regulatory scheme. Now, nothing I'm saying is insurmountable because we've had a lot of success in South Africa already with U.S. enterprises outsourcing their services to South Africa. But I think that you need to understand before you step your toe in the water of what it is. The United States regulatory scheme is based upon a set of federal laws and 50 state laws. And that requires a really tremendous knowledge of how to comply with this regulatory scheme and how to pay for it. And then assessing the risk on what the cost of the compliance is. And in the United States, there's different security requirements, certifications like a SOC 2 or many other banking regulations. We have HIPAA regulations that pertain to the healthcare industry. On the debt collection side, which I'm going to talk about in a second, there's 50 state laws, including some federal laws as well. So understanding of the appropriate regulations and how to comply with them when talking to a prospective U.S. enterprise is extremely important, and understanding that is extremely important. A couple examples of this complexity is data privacy regulation. As of today in the U.S., there is no federal regulation. It's only a patchwork of state laws that are different and costly to comply with. Fortunately, South Africa has an advantage, as many of the South African BPOs adhere already to GDPR. And so far, 4 states, including California, have regulations that are all different, but probably not as aggressive as GDPR. And there is an effort now in the US to create a federal law, which is being supported by industry, by the consumer protection groups, and by the regulatory bodies, which is a good start. Unfortunately, the impediment there is what's actually in the law. And I am, as Andy said, I am part of a lobbying group now that is actually proposing a federal privacy law that will hopefully address both the consumer concern and industry concern as well. If anybody wants more information, then feel free to call me. Another vertical that has opportunities in the U.S. for South African companies is debt collection. Debt collectors in the U.S. are extremely hard to hire. They're suffering the same thing with minimum wage, with people looking in other areas for jobs. And then the drawback of entering that thing is the 50-state regulatory environment and licensing concerns. But there is an opportunity there, and I urge, if you're interested in that, you really reach out to some debt collection companies in the U.S. that you could partner with, because third-party, first-party collections is really more BPO work that actually can be serviced outside the country, and there are areas that are taking advantage of that. Another big problem to consider if you're doing some outbound campaigns in the U.S. is that the United States is inundated with an illegal robocall issue. We have a do not call list, and frankly, that has not helped the situation at all. In fact, people who are on the do not call list are still inundated with calls. These are all illegal. They're coming from mostly outside of the U.S. into the U.S. And there's been laws passed that have not helped the situation. And the more regulations that they put on it, it really just hurts the good actors. Right now, the Federal Communications Commission is contemplating measures against gateway providers, so those providers that provide international calls to get into the U.S. Marketplace. And right now, there's an effort for them to put restrictions on, such as know your customer and some other ideas that probably they haven't thought out too well. And so you have to be aware that these are some issues that you're going to have to deal with. South Africa has proven they can meet these challenges and deliver successful results, as will be illustrated through some case studies a little bit later in the session. The South African government, social organizations, nonprofit organizations such as BPESA, and individual BPO companies have increased marketing activities. And now, as Peter Ryan's strategic advisory concern came out, South Africa is now the #1 desired geography in outsourcing. Other older geographies, such as the Philippines, have had attrition issues as well as connectivity issues during COVID. I see that as a positive for South Africa. Many U.S. companies have decided to look at new geographies that can supply the English talent with ample growth. South Africa is one of them. Another hot region now is the Caribbean, mainly because of its short distance from the U.S. Excuse me. They can supply English in countries as Jamaica and bilingual in the Dominican Republic. Having said that, South Africa has a population of 55 million, and the entire Caribbean has a population of 44 million, with over 50% being from Haiti and Cuba, not contact center geographies. Jamaica, which is a hot place right now, has 2.9 million residents, so there will be a concern on saturation. These are all positives that South Africa can take advantage of. In talking to buyers, the two main obstacles that I've experienced are relative to distance from the US and competitive pricing. The distance part has become more of a concern due to travel restrictions during COVID. Some enterprises require as part of procurement to visit before they can make a decision. Some of that has relaxed based upon the need of the enterprise and staffing issues in the US. There is still concern when companies will be able to travel in 2022. So BPOs who have been able to create a virtual tour that would almost be the same as a visit have been able to gain new business. Some of that success has come from previous discussions prior to COVID, and that has resulted in success. Based upon experience as well as some recent studies, South African prices rank with nearshore competitors higher than the Philippines and India. I believe this is changing and price can be overcome with other variables such as results, customer experience, statistics, long-term value. South Africa will also see price reductions as second-tier cities become a part of the contact center community. It is reasonable that in those areas, wages and other costs will be lower and provide an overall better competitive rate. South Africa is a great value proposition. The pricing and distance are not insurmountable. Because of the major cities as well as second-tier locations, South Africa offers multiple locations for an enterprise to take advantage of. Many who invested in the Philippines and India because of the distance decided to have multiple delivery locations or partners in those areas to take advantage of the travel when they get there. The size of the unemployed population that speak English is very suitable for projects that need scale. Partnerships with training institutions, both nonprofit and for-profit opportunities, provide a steady, reliable workforce. South Africa has demonstrated a reliable workforce in terms of low attrition and absenteeism. Companies are able to meet their clients' workforce requirements. For those BPOs that do not have operations in South Africa, you will find a very welcoming environment from both governments, social organizations, nonprofits such as BPESA and other BPOs. The government has designated the GBS sector, including the contact center industry, as a priority. There is access to information and assistance to help in ways they can. That's all I have, and I want to thank Andy again for inviting me today, and I'm going to turn it now over to Dave Brumble.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Stuart. Great to get some of those insights from a US perspective, and clearly there's quite a lot of commonality with what's going on in the UK and Europe. So I'll start by saying, look, Dave Rumble, the first time I've been on one of these panels and not been referred to as a veteran, so I've got to thank Andy for that. So I do feel very old at most of these events. But look, I'll start by saying that my love affair with South Africa started probably 15 years ago, meaningfully. And, you know, as an advocate of the country and as an advocate of the capabilities that the country and more meaningfully the industry can deliver globally and being able to compete. Stuart's mentioned the Ryan Advisory Report, you know, and those are the proof points that just go into, you know, demonstrating that South Africa has a capability to deliver and perform on a world stage and compete with any of the other geographies that have got you know, kind of complementary capabilities. So look, I'm just in terms of, you know, some of my experiences, you know, the industry when I first came down was relatively small. The first points I came down, it wasn't ready for delivering international PPO, and particularly services into the UK. But I've seen, you know, the confidence in the sector, clearly the support from the government, you know, the ability to assimilate the activities in source markets and really talk the language of BPO and really talk the language of customer, you know, start to emerge over that decade. And it's been a privilege to see some of the things and the developments in the industry, you know, over that time with the big investments initially from Serco and Capita from a UK market perspective, and then more recently with organisations like Sigma and Ascensos arriving in the country. We're going to hear from John a little later, but I think, you know, this is a, you know, kind of an interesting time for the market in UK and Europe. You know, the macro environment, just in terms of where we've been, you know, if I reference back to, you know, kind of the macroeconomic position and the amount of capital that's being pushed into the economies of both the European markets and the UK market through quantitative easing, which we're all familiar with up here, that capital hasn't really flowed through into the investments that we expected to see coming out of the last economic turmoil, 2008, 2009. And largely that's driven by the fact that that recovery was seen principally as a jobless recovery. So I think the story through, the 2010 to 2020, as we, kind of come into pandemic, was that South Africa was largely trying to compete in the transformative market at a time when the market is consolidating, bigger players getting much larger. And so the narrative was much more around, being part of a much more substantive transformational transaction where a combination of technology, a combination of wage arbitrage, and a combination of commercial commitments back into clients to deliver those services, largely for the UK. That market has not matured in the same way in continental Europe. But South Africa's value proposition, providing certainty and providing confidence for those client investments and those vendor investments, was clearly a key part of that. And it's been great to see, those organisations establish themselves and build, real scale. We're going to hear from Webhelp and Capita as case studies later on. So I won't steal their thunder in terms of why they've made those investment decisions. But I think what we really need to look at now is, having put South Africa on the map, having secured the position as a most favoured destination, is how we convert that now into a real opportunity, recognising, as we come out of pandemic, that there are some fairly significant structural shifts in the way that work is being delivered, the way the work is being consumed, and more importantly, how customers' expectations have shifted and how we address that narrative. So, I would say that the narrative has most definitely moved away from, technology is the answer to all problems, and what we'll do is we'll invest in these super smart technologies and, AI and all of this stuff that, kind of goes into making life a lot easier. Now, clearly it's got its place, but I think what the pandemic has shown us is that, service is the business of humans helping humans. And I think that's a significant shift, and putting the power to the front line is going to really benefit South Africa, providing that we can step into the opportunity and meet that opportunity head on. So I come back to, as a BPO, focusing on those things that are important. So, look, we've all got win themes. Most organisations, most BPO organisations, when they're bidding for work or when they're trying to solicit an opportunity with a client, will focus on those areas that form part of the value proposition. And we have to fess up. South Africa is part of a global sourcing market. And the noise around those decisions is pretty common. So we've got the right legislative environment. You can have confidence in your investment. We've got access to labour. We've got access to skills, and all of those things provide a proposition that can give you a sustainable recurring income as a business. And so the business case is qualifiable. So I think that that all of that side is exceptionally positive. And as I mentioned, South Africa is in a position to compete on a world stage. I think in addressing the win themes, we also need to talk about some of the knockdowns and being open and honest. And I think this is where I'll say that South Africa, and having worked in the country for a long time, is that level of transparency that goes into building the trust and confidence in a decision, and being able to get ourselves to be very openly talking about some of those challenges that we've got, whether that's challenges in our ability to scale because first line supervisory management is a challenge. We can address that through skills, whether it's the things around the electricity, power, and challenges around the controlling of electricity. We've got some stuff going on in the political dynamics. So I think that whole narrative that goes into addressing all of the positives around being there is that we also, in the spirit of the continuity around openness and transparency and building that trust and confidence, is address some of those knockdowns when we come into to making those decisions. So I think that, from the point of view of having sold the geography and having bought into South Africa as a proposition, is making sure that we understand those challenges, and when we make an investment, that those investments come with a level of patience and support, which is there clearly from the industry bodies and competitors, just in terms of that, some of those global leaders that you're going to hear about. So I think, look, I mean, I'll summarize by saying, you know, the recovery that we're going through presents an enormous opportunity. It's great to hear that that the master plan has been signed up to. You know, it's a very, very significant commitment to the sector, and it's great to see that the government are participating in the way that they are. You know, as a you know, kind of a sponsor to the sector, it's great. It's great to see that the public side and the public face of investment steps in behind the industry to support it. But I think, look, I think service, come back to the point, service is the business of people helping people, and that requires ingenuity and empathy, and not necessarily technology. And that's what South Africa has, you know, an enormous capability towards ingenuity and empathy. And I'm reminded of a phrase, Bormaka Plan, which came to me when I was very early. I had to look it up to find out what it meant, but the ability to address and face into challenges and deal with those. And that's, from a customer expectation perspective, I think where we're moving, and the industry moving away from consolidation and much more towards collaboration. And I think those two forces will put and propel South Africa to achieve its ambition in terms of the master plan. So that's me for now. I'm going to be handing over to Vikram and Prateep from EXL. So really excited to hear what those guys have got to say. It's in a video, so I'll let the guys prompt the video, and over to Vikram and Prateep.
Thank you for having us, mainly because we love talking about South Africa and how it's been so instrumental in our success. Over the last 7 years, our operations in South Africa has actually grown 8x, and a sizable proportion of that growth has come in the last 2 years itself. Why South Africa and why we continue to see growth in South Africa can probably be summarized in 5 key points. One, it affords us the stability in operating, since most of our operations are work from office, while also allowing flexibility in operating in a work from anywhere model with the government support and infrastructure. Then there is excellence in delivery, given the ready availability of exceptional talent, allowing us even to compete with onshore performance. For example, in the recent past success itself, we have successfully landed 8 new clients with absolutely zero surprise migrations, incubation, and exceptional learning curves. And then we've seen success in pivoting to increasing customer demands on best-in-class CX. And given the talent in the sector, delivering exceptional CX with minimal intervention, we have seen faster and more consistent delivery on CX than any other geo. More importantly, the ability to upskill, reskill, cross-skill, and future skill staff with ease, given the skills focus and support from the government, BPESA, and other initiatives in the territory, and EXL's own in-house domain and digital academies, sets us up for success and allows us to scale at large. Finally, and I think a very important point for us, is the community outreach and impact sourcing initiatives in territory, allowing us to tap into a section of talent that has been rewarding, both in terms of EXL's ability to give back to the community, as well as in the competence of the staff we've hired from here, and the loyalty and capability they demonstrate once in their roles. I have to say that while we have had a lot of successes, yes, we have faced some challenges, namely the paucity of managerial staff or exceptional management staff, but it's not too dissimilar from what we have started or faced when we're starting our operations in other geos. And our skills handover plan, now that we have had 7 years under our belt, is beginning to yield very encouraging results. But I would rather have someone closely managing our operations unpack some of the above in a little more detail. And on that note, I'd like to introduce you to Vikram Machado, with 16 years of experience managing operations in India, Philippines, and South Africa, based in the Philippines. He currently is a client executive for a leading Fortune 250 insurance client based in the US, and an operating lead with a span of close to 3,000 people across the 3 locations. He therefore probably has a front row seat on the secret sauce of South Africa, and why our clients believe this is a destination of choice for complex work. So without further delay, I'd like to hand over to Vikram.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and glad to connect with all of you, albeit virtually, and be a part of this melting pot of minds. And thank you, Pratap, as always, eloquent in your brevity and perhaps a little too kind, but I'll take it. Well, it has been a couple of really interesting years which have seen a seismic shift in customer expectations and company behavior, from speed of trust to speed of delivery, from product, price, technology, and competitor obsession. We've seen a massive move towards customer obsession. Contact centers, which were once high touch intensive, are now right touch imperative. Now, this has been powered in part by a digital impulsion, but critically empowered, ladies and gentlemen, by top tier frontline talent. In keeping with this theme, I'd like to discuss EXL's odyssey through these unprecedented and unpredictable times and our crusade towards creating really an ecosystem of experience. To bring you quickly up to speed on EXL, we are an organization with presence in almost every continent, barring Antarctica, and large-scale operations across multiple geographies. Our stock price has seen a surge across the last 18 months, a 3x surge, in fact, across the last 18 months, punctuated with multiple all-time highs in recent weeks. And that really has been testimony to client confidence, market confidence, and investor belief. Now, our core competencies span the insurance and healthcare worlds, and in addition to that, what we refer to as the emerging business unit. Really, a business unit which clubs retail, banking, travel, utilities, and our expertise in other lines of businesses. And finally, our spectrum of services include best-in-class BPO operations, a top-tier analytics practice, an industry-leading consulting, platform services, and F&A and an F&A practice. Now, from an insurance perspective, ladies and gentlemen, this is our largest book of business and a space in which we are colloquially referred to as category killers. We are service partners to top insurance carriers globally, from leading carriers in the UK and ANZ markets to 7 of the top 10 carriers in the US market, Fortune 50, Fortune 100, 250, and 500. The depth of our expertise and the breadth of our experience is powered by an explosive analytics engine. And this has really resulted in us being classified in analyst ratings across the board as star performers and leaders in this space. The driving engine, however, ladies and gentlemen, which has powered this juggernaut and been catalytic to our growth, has been our people. To quote a leading analyst, customers are 4 times more likely, especially during this pandemic, to switch based on service rather than price or product. Now, this brings me to a location that all of us here at EXL have a deep belief in, coupled with investment, our Cape Town centers in South Africa. Now, 6 years ago, when as an organization, we looked at strategically diversifying to a new global location, some key considerations from a service delivery perspective were: 1, a large and educated labor pool with strong language capabilities, an unsaturated geo which had the ability to source for and scale complex work types, interactions with a strong call center focus, strong industry sponsorship from a highly involved and integrated national body like BPESA with a supportive government. Really, in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, we were looking for a geo that would complement our capabilities across the globe with top tier customer service. And our teams in South Africa have done just that. At the risk of sounding hyperbolic, our frontliners in South Africa have not just been evangelists of experience, but have also been exceptional advocates of customer digital adoption. I say this in all honesty, but just as importantly, accompanied by a chorus or a choir, if you will, of customer testimonials. Now, personally, I've been happy to have been associated with our South Africa teams for the last few years. And at the risk of preaching to the newly converted, using just the last 18 months as a barometer of success, the results have been very encouraging. 3x growth, top tier, and in some cases, global leading, and I mean across onshore and offshore customer satisfaction scores. The critical ability to scale complex businesses, execute a safe landing, and manage a seamless transition. And finally, every ops leader's holy grail, positive people metrics. Now, I must admit, when we were first transitioning key clients to this new geography, some key considerations and concerns, proverbial icebergs, if you will, that could scuttle any early expansion endeavors were attrition and absenteeism. What I and the rest of the EXL leadership have found really reassuring are the lower rates of absenteeism and the higher rates of retention at our EXL South Africa centers. Now, this coupled with the ease of doing business with our South African leadership and staff teams has been exemplary. In fact, a key call out or a cornerstone call out has been the ability to manage a stable and seamless operations with no disruptions during this pandemic period. And this has been articulated as a key differentiator by a whole host of our clients as well. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as part of this pilgrimage of ours towards the evolution of experience, of charting customer journeys and decoding those key moments of truth in their experience cycle, and really as part of the evolution of our own execution model, we have endeavored to empower our frontliners with customer interaction and experience aggregators, powered by predictive and sentiment analytics across the omni-channel playing field. This has really enabled us, right, to have empathy backed by action and high velocity decision making, really putting the life back into life insurance, if you will. Thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to meeting all of you in person. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratap and Vikram and EXL for a great presentation. I would like to introduce Kathleen Goltig, Deputy Managing Director of Capita now, to give her thoughts.
Good afternoon, all. I'm not sure if it's good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. So welcome to a great engaging session. I've had a very proud moment today, which was to be part of the BPESA government and signing off the first stages of signing off that South Africa is open for business. And we signed off today a pledge for over 500,000 careers to be done out of South Africa over the next 10 years, finishing 2030. So very proud and an awesome moment. So I want to talk a bit about Capita, but before I go there, I thought I'd just share a moment, just 1 minute about myself. And I think it's quite important when you look at the depth and skill that is in South Africa. So on a personal note, I spent the early stages of my career in airline and then in financial services. And I recall a very pertinent moment in my career. I was working for one of our very core banks. And in those days, we could sign home loans and do a lot of things. So it was a very experiential time in banking. And I had to increase my target. And I remember this very clearly. And I sat in my manager's office. In those days, you had a big manager's office. You had tea and coffee delivered. And you used to see your clients, private clients, one-on-one. And I thought, how am I going to grow this business? And obviously, as bankers, you get targets. And I did something that I'm sure many other people have done, is I set up my own call center. I'd made a decision to actually call my customers and look at their track records and then start to offer them home loans and business loans and a whole variety of different things. But what that did for me was actually let me see that business in banking was changing. So not long after that, I headed off to another big banking business in South Africa, which actually was a big contact center, and then headed to the UK. But what I wanted to bring to this table was with the experience of, be it in the UK, I worked in the US, I worked in India, and I'm proudly back in South Africa. You can see the wealth of not only experience, but the wealth of knowledge, skill that actually is within South Africa. So my journey into Capita was very interesting. I was part of a company in the early days. I was employee number 3, and you're going to see some of those numbers shortly. It was a very key time where South Africa was being looked at for international business. And in those days, maybe we had to knock a lot harder on the doors because we weren't as digital as we are today, and being able to just do this conference in itself or meeting you face to face on a digital channel wasn't there before. So in the very early stages, and David Rumble, we had many memories going back many years ago, where we actually looked at how do we bring business to South Africa. And in those days, it was flights, having face-to-face meetings. So right at the early stages, under consulting, under setting up businesses, and this is quite key, because on this call, there may be many large businesses that might be BPOs or be captives that actually want to come to South Africa and think about in what safe hands they could be and how could we support you. So that was our start of our journey. And then at a very early stage, Capita came to us. We were in the process of a very large client transaction, and they said, can we be part of the Capita family? And that's how that came about. So I'm going to go into a bit of detail of Capita, but I just wanted to give you the sense, first of all, the human side of me, to know that we've all had this journey at different stages, and then also just to show the evolution of where we are today, because that's equally important. So we're going to go to my presentation. I have digital support on hand. So just to give you a sense, and I'm sure you can look it up and get a sense of Capita, I'm part of the Capita Experience Division. Our pure focus is about transforming businesses, but equally important, that frictional experience. I think one of our presenters mentioned about the life moments, very much about empathy. When our customer is on the line and then they're not calling us because they've got nothing to do, they're calling us because they've got a challenge. How do we listen to it? How do we support it? And when that call is finished, it is about that moment. And you and I know if that moment isn't a great moment, it is spoken about more times. If it's a great moment, it is shared, mentioned, and hopefully more great moments are made. So for us in Capita, it's very much about that frictionless experience. When you get to us, be it that you had a utility challenge, be it that you might have had a flight challenge, that we can actually understand it and connect with you. We are a very large organization, proud of the size of the business that we're in. Obviously, we're very key in focusing on growth. Also very key in focusing on consulting. So again, when businesses do want to come to South Africa, we're comfortable to work with you. And again, it doesn't matter what the type of business is. The key point is that this is about growing businesses as a whole. There are some brands being shared on this slide. I think what is important is Capita has been seen as number 1 in the UK, Ireland, and Switzerland for customer experience, number 2 in Germany, and obviously number 5 in the UK pension and admin consulting. So again, why would Capita have chosen South Africa? And I'm going to unravel that as we go along. What is also important as we go to the next slide is about being a responsible business. So coming to a country and making sure you do things right and making sure you stand by the principles you have in your business is important. So I think very quickly, we all went into our work from home world when COVID happened. Just from a South Africa point of view, exceptionally strong relationships with government, with BPESA, and with private entities. When we went into lockdown, we were literally on a call. Today, I again met Minister Patel He signed our documents to open us up for business. I'm not sure there's many places in the world where I can say that would have happened as quick as that happened. And the fact that this industry, in literally 2-3 days, and I think we all remember those 18 hours, and I think I slept much for those first few days, how we got together, how we resolved the challenge, and very quickly we were all opened, our businesses were all seen as essential services. And isn't that a great place to be when business and government understands the importance of this industry? Also very focused on making sure we pay equal pay. We are very conscious of doing responsible business. We're also very conscious of making sure we take care of our colleagues, and that we do things right. Again, just a bit about our clients and our suppliers, making sure we pay correctly on time. If we do have a small business that is a startup that is needing some support and is part of certain programs, again, that payment might be different. So again, looking at how we work together. The other part is also making sure that we do look at youth unemployment and that we do develop. So Capita as a global business, that is their key focus. Capita as South Africa, it is also our key focus. However, for us, we have many methods of doing that. So we have our impact sourcing, looking at our young people in South Africa. Our current unemployment rates are very high, and we all know that. But again, a very key focus for us. We are committed to net zero by 2035. No doubt this is a conversation being had in many boardrooms right now. Again, I look at South Africa. Our commitment in Capita South Africa is to do the same, as in what do we do? How do we contribute to it? So again, very much a responsible business, good corporate citizenship, and looking at our future generation. That's Capita Global. Does South Africa fit in it? Absolutely. Is there anything globally that Capita does that we can't do? As I look you in the eye, I can say right now, no. What I can say, sometimes I even do more than what is asked. As we head to the other slide, you'll get a sense of where Capita is in the customer experience part. So clearly, we're based in the United Kingdom, we're in Poland, we're in Germany, we're in India, Dubai, and obviously proudly South African. So again, Capita has come to South Africa and has brought knowledge, technology, and has helped us grow in South Africa. At the same token, South Africa is supporting that growth, and you'll see a bit of that shortly. I'll share that on the next slide. So this is my most favorite slide at the moment, which is about amazing humans and brilliant technology. So there's a part of me that says 8-9 years ago, you would come to South Africa. There is no doubt you will get the empathy, the willingness to go the extra mile. You'll get that frictionless relationship. And then COVID happened and technology came to all of us in all its shapes and forms. And how were we going to fit in? Was South Africa being seen as behind the curve, or can South Africa be seen as part of the curve? So for me, this is the statement: amazing humans and brilliant technology working in harmony. And if I can leave that one with you today, I think that's a very exciting terminology, because thinking about the way that we are today on the school, building rapport, sharing ideas, yet behind it, a robotic transaction could be building the skill and helping our interaction for future. So again, when you look at this, you see that technology is going to also help the advisor in an augmented way. So when you ask a question, it will maybe guide us to an answer. Again, a global business coming to South Africa, being comfortable that South Africa can be equipped to support it, I think is really important. And again, looking at this, we have large CI teams, continuous improvement out of South Africa, where we ourselves are coming up with these ideas that we can then add to this amazing technology that is being built. So I think, again, we're going to end with that key point: delivering empathetic experiences. I love the word frictionless. I think it just makes things much more smoother, but no doubt that's where we are heading to. So on the backdrop of this large organization, putting its faith in South Africa, then getting us in the COVID world, and then getting this digital world, how do we see ourselves through it? How do we remain open for business and wanting more business? And then why South Africa? So I'm going to share a little bit about why South Africa and what we have done. Let's jump on to the next slide. That's going to show beautiful Table Mountain for those who don't know, for Cape Town. Can't guarantee I've climbed it, but I definitely have been on top. So a current snapshot of South Africa. So first of all, we are well over 80,000 strong in the BPO sector. This is not including captives, because there are large captives in South Africa. This is looking at pure international. So a good, matured leadership business. Let's be very open. There are cost values by coming to South Africa. And we all know that sometimes the exchange rate might not be in our favor, but in principle, there is benefits in the salary arbitrage in coming to South Africa. At the same token, we know that over time, as salaries may go up in the US or UK or Europe, South Africa will also go up, but those things will happen together. So we will still always continuously have our salary arbitrage. The other part is very much human capital leadership. So again, I'll share with you some statistics. We are not only as Capita, but as an industry today, we are preparing leaders for our future. And I think that's a very unique thing, and I haven't experienced it anywhere else, to be honest. We actually are looking at the 500,000 roles for our future, and we're saying, what do we need to be there? And how do we be open for business and be sustainable? Also talking about supporting businesses, procurement and enablement, diverse service offering. So it's front office, it's back office, it's voice, it's CI, it's finance. It's a mixture of lots of different roles. Then we also have our, obviously, all our leaderships and making sure that they are developed. Let me jump to the next slide. I'm conscious of time, but I do want to give you some really key messages. So today we are 11 clients across our sites. I have 4,300 colleagues, and I have over 4,700 self-investing in themselves. So very much a career they see coming to Capita as a future stepping stone for their career. It's not a stepping stone. Obviously, lots of promotions, so we can promote, and I'm sure you're familiar with these titles, team leaders, OMs, and heads of, a lot of promotions in quality, and then just a few awards that we've got. My next slide is maybe just to share with you where we are. So we are in Cape Town today. We are heading to a new geography for early next year. These are just some pictures of our sites. And again, a good sense that we can do multi-channel sales and service. And, one would never have known that we've answered over 16.8 million calls. That number, and looking at head count, you sometimes can't always see that coming together. So large volumes of calls, lots of web chat, and a lot of different things that we do. So this was quite key for me to share, and I just want to spend a minute on here, which is Capita we were acquired by Capita in 2012, and very quickly we grew. And you can see in the earlier days, there was a lot more breaks in between, and now as we have gone into 2018, 19, and 20, a lot more clients have come to us. So very steady, lots of growth, and multiple clients. Can I just share with you quickly the verticals of my clients? All right, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but again, it's just to reinforce customer service, revenue with sales, cost, collections, in agile, and very, very key. And I heard that earlier about the US market. So US market, Europe and UK, making sure we are compliant. So making sure we have our ISO standards, making sure we do what is right. So as we move to our last slides, I just wanted to end, and I actually turned this upside down. So hopefully you do see that when you do look at the presentation, because there was a message in this last slide. Again, it was about now that we are moving into 2022, how do we bring the humans and brilliant technology together? And today, Capita has its own, avatar. You'd never have known that many years ago. So turning things upside down, but still being able to offer empathy, frictionless service, and open for business. So hopefully I'll get some questions near the end. I need to wrap up. Very proud to be part of Capita, and also very proud to have our businesses run out of South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen and Capita. Appreciate that. I'm going to introduce now Brandon Aitken, Chief Commercial Officer from WebHub, and I think we're going to see a recording.
Hello everybody, and a very warm welcome to South Africa. If you virtual or if you are, have been able to come and visit us in South Africa, really extend a fantastic welcome to you, and I hope yesterday and today will be really meaningful in your journey of exploring the GBS sector in South Africa. My name is Brandon Aitken. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for WebHelp South Africa, and I'm going to be talking to you for the next 10 minutes about WebHelp and our journey to South Africa and why we see it as a strategic destination for our growing international business. I'm talking to you as a proud South African, but also as somebody who's been immersed in the sector for over a decade, living and working in places like the US, the UK, Philippines, and obviously now South Africa. WebHelp is a top 5 global BPO leader with over 90,000 people in 170 locations worldwide. We lead in Africa with over 23,000 people in 8 countries, and now in South Africa have approaching 5,500 young South Africans serving 20 international clients from UK, Europe, and North America. When we first set up in 2015, we were confident in the value proposition and all the attributes that I'm sure will be playing out in the sessions during this event. High quality English, an abundance of talent to deliver scale, world-class infrastructure, low costs, and a government that prioritizes sustainability through focused investments. As confident as we were in these qualities, we still had a vision and a passion and a belief that South Africa has the ability to deliver value beyond wage arbitrage. We started small with a few hundred people, and by 2018 we had just over 2,500 people serving 8 clients. During this early phase, we enjoyed tremendous collaboration from government, industry bodies, enabling SMEs, and even our fiercest rivals, all with the collective passion and will to create business and job opportunities for young people in a country with an alarming unemployment problem. In these first 3 years, we were able to develop strong and credible reference points that lay the foundation for us to confidently go to market and say, South Africa works. And it works for the retail sector, where WebHelp have enjoyed the most success, the travel industry, finance and accounting, utilities, telecommunications, and many other verticals and niche sectors. Using one of our UK retail clients as an example, and a client that has trusted South Africa with this customer experience for over 9 years, we have a case study that shows with South Africans driving customer experiences, sharing ideas for innovation and process improvement, we have helped to halve the number of contacts and move their Net Promoter Score by over 40 points in the process. For our clients who need to quickly scale, particularly over busy peak seasons, we have proven that we can access talent through unique impact sourcing engines and help deliver quality services for our clients during their most important trading period. So with these and other case studies proving the value proposition, other clients naturally followed. It followed not just because our ability to scale with a high standard of English speakers, but the young people behind those voices have emotional intelligence, can make judgments, and have the kind of conversations that make real human connections that drive loyalty and long-term value. And this growth followed despite the numerous issues we have faced as a sector and as a country. During 2020, we added 7 new clients during the pandemic. This helped clients who were not able to keep running from other regions that were less prepared and worse hit by business disruption. Yes, South Africa has issues as a country, and those are not ignored nor hidden. Taxi violence, civil disruption, water and power shortages all punctuate the last decade and occupy boardroom discussions on the safety of investments in offshore BPO. But South Africa and South Africans are especially resilient, and despite all of those issues, we continue to enjoy high growth, high output, and keep building stronger delivery capabilities. In the early years, we did not conceive sending hundreds and thousands of people home to work from home. But when forced through COVID, we now have a work from anywhere solution that is safe, resilient, and now a natural part of a diverse operating model that works. So, what is next for South Africa? What we are seeing is more and more US clients starting to see the value of our proposition. We are underrepresented in key opportunities like financial services, content moderation, and the US retail sector. So our ability to deliver scale, innovation, and compliance to support these sectors makes South Africa a natural choice. South Africa has enjoyed a lot of success in recent years and is now at a tipping point of growth. Companies operating out of South Africa have excellent reference points across multiple sectors and strengthens our message to prove that South Africa is a premium destination for customer experience. Webhelp has Africa as a key strategic destination for growth to drive economic benefit and service quality for all of our international partners looking to expand their global reach, with South Africa the foundation of our English destination of choice. So I encourage you to visit South Africa. Come and meet our people and see why we are trusted with hundreds of millions of customer experiences every year. Thank you.
It's great to be able to hear from larger organisations that have made the investment in South Africa, and I'm delighted to now be able to introduce John Devlin from Ascensos, the latest provider to make the investment and the journey down from the UK, and have the confidence to put a flag in the map in Cape Town. So over to you, John. Let's hear your story.
Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks, everyone. And great to hear the stories, especially some of those larger organisations. I wish I had spoken with you before, because it has given me even greater confidence that we have made the right decision to invest in South Africa. Yeah, our story is a little bit different, as David has alluded to. We are very much still an entrepreneurial, independent, owner-managed BPO business that has grown very quickly over the last 7 years, headquartered in Scotland, and now with operations across the UK, Romania, Turkey, and more recently in South Africa. I would love to say to you that we made a very strategic decision to invest in South Africa. We did strategically as a business look at where we could deliver what we call the SAS in our business, the speed, agility and scale that we need to differentiate ourselves in a very competitive BPO market space. And we were looking for that strategic differentiation for English-speaking talent on a global basis as we extended our global build-out and our global reach. We'd started an exercise pre-pandemic looking at the various regions that could service that SAS approach, looking for speed, agility and scale of deployment for English language talent. And South Africa did feature in that strategic review, as did nearshore North American operations, as did Central America. And as Stuart and David both mentioned, there are some strong players in that Caribbean space, such as Jamaica. However, and it's a big however, as both guys alluded to earlier, market conditions in the UK changed very rapidly during the pandemic, and market costs, and the labour market itself started to constrict very, very quickly. So albeit we were involved in a much wider strategic review process, it came to our attention in the spring of this year, in the April-May period, that we had to do something very rapidly to deliver English language talent solutions for our business and for our clients' operations much quicker than we had anticipated. And at that point, we had to make, let's say, a snap judgment about what we did next. Our business is in the retail sector. We service 24 clients in the retail and consumer space. And as always in the retail sector, you have to position yourself for the retail golden quarter, which is in the run up to Black Friday, Cyber Week, and into Christmas period. So going back into May of this year, we had to make a very rapid decision to deploy new capacity, new capability, new resources very quickly into the August-September period. So how did we do that? With no boots on the ground in South Africa, we had to work with partners that already existed in country and work on a collaborative basis with guys that we could trust, guys that we had confidence in, who could deliver solutions on our behalf. So that's exactly what we've done. We worked with and invested in a business based in Cape Town, a business called Digital Tribe, and working with their leadership team to deliver a collaborative approach to bring a census into South Africa within very tight timelines. Those timelines we set to be by 1st of September. And of course, the clock was ticking all the time. Really, before we got even the framework of an arrangement in place, we were into the June period. So realistically, we had operations live in South Africa within 8 weeks of us starting some meaningful conversations. And that's the level of speed, agility, scale, but the speed and agility that we needed to deliver, in which South Africa was able to support, was delivering live ops within an 8-week window. Since that point in time, from the 1st of September, we now have scaled up to 150 customer-facing colleagues based in Cape Town. And it's landed exceptionally well for us on all metrics, all KPIs, all measures. South Africa and the team we have in Cape Town has delivered exactly what we had asked of it. Going forward, that scale up is critical to us. We not only want to service the English-speaking market in the UK, but increasingly look at the affinity that South African have in supporting global operations for English language in Australia and the US and North America. And our plan is to scale up in South Africa very quickly to get to having 600 colleagues based in Cape Town by mid-year 2022. So that speed, agility and scalability that SAS I referred to is crucial to us and has been very successfully delivered through the collaboration we have with the operations in South Africa to date. It's also down to ease of doing business. When you can't actually be there in person, then you have to have trust and confidence and a great working relationship with the folks who are based in Cape Town. So the ease of doing business that we've found working remotely, investing in a business, starting a business from scratch, building it, bringing in new talent, both at a colleague basis and at a managerial basis. All of that being done remotely because that's the crazy world we live in at the moment, that you can't actually be there in person to meet your colleagues, shake hands with them, go for a beer, etc. All of that has to be done remotely in a very virtual sense. And we had a great template for doing that because we've done the very same thing mid-year last year, 2020, when we had we spun up a business in Turkey very quickly and have grown that out to 400 FTE capability across 3 locations in Turkey in a 12-month period. But the trust, the confidence, and the collaboration is crucial when you can't actually be there in person, and meet the colleagues yourself. So all of that ease of doing business was of major importance to us. Obviously, cost is a factor, and we had to take into consideration that sweet spot between cost and talent. But yeah, strategically, it's vital for us to remain commercially competitive and also find English-speaking talent that's more natural than possibly we would find in the Caribbean, more natural than we would find certainly in India or in the Philippines. So all of that was the reasons that we ultimately plucked for South Africa, but we had to deliver it in a much more rapid time frame than anyone would have thought possible, doing it over a 8 to 10 week period. Customer acceptance has been fantastic. Our UK clients who have trusted us to place some of their business into South Africa, their acceptance of Cape Town has been exceptional, and our clients, customers, the end customer acceptance of South Africa so far, and it is early days for us, to be fair, but so far it has been exceptional. So it's been 10 years personally since I touched South African soil, and it sounds as if it's changed a lot in that time period. I am coming out to meet the guys, all things being equal, and our ability to travel remains open. I'm coming out to meet the guys in Cape Town mid-December. Very much look forward to doing that, because as I said, it seems a crazy world at the moment that you invest in businesses, start businesses, grow businesses and scale them without ever having met your colleagues in the flesh.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate that. We're going to wrap up now. Before I turn it over to David, all the case studies just prove that South Africa is a great destination for call centers. If you're not there, you should look into it. The talent's there, the skills are there. David was able to talk about some of the transparency, and some of the issues that we have, and I think that they all can be corrected. And so it was great to be part of this, and I'm going to turn it over to David.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Stuart. Yeah, I'd echo those comments. Great to hear. Great to hear from the contributors. I particularly like John's SAS, so that one will definitely stick with my mind, and I'll work on the basis of who dares wins. And I'll sum up by saying clearly there's a series of special forces at play for South Africa, just in terms of its ability to compete on a world stage. The investment case clearly has got a lot going for it, just in terms of the commercial benefits, but also the operational benefits. And I think finally, most meaningfully, it seems to be that the talent and the capabilities that are on the ground in South Africa are really delivering for clients. And that's what ultimately is delivering the benefits for those organizations that have chosen to invest, whether that's Sensos most recently seeing, the performance that they are to those that have been around much longer, like WebHelp. It's great to see that. So thank you, everybody, for listening. I am wrapping up now, so this is the end of it. We've got a break, which I think is for a couple of minutes. So if you need a bio break or get a brew, thank you very much, and looking forward to the next session.